Nobody at the Franklin County School District knew that Margaret Owens drove to work on a tire that had been slowly dying for 6 weeks. She knew every pothole on Route 9 the way a surgeon knows veins. By memory, by feel, by the particular kind of dread that lives in the chest when something expensive is about to break, and there is no money left to fix it. She took the long way every morning. It added 11 minutes. Those 11 minutes were the cost of keeping the tire alive a little longer. She was 41 years old, and she was a third-grade teacher, and she was the only parent her 2 sons had ever really known. Her husband, Daniel, had left when the boys were 3 and 1. Not dramatically, not with a fight, not with anything worth turning into a story. He had simply become someone who called less and less, who sent birthday cards with no return address, who eventually became a name the boys associated with awkward silences in a photograph. On the mantel they had stopped asking about. Grief, Margaret had learned, was not always loud. Sometimes it was just the slow quiet of a person becoming absent. The boys were 9 and 7 now. Caleb was the older one, serious, careful with his words, the kind of child who watched adults to understand what they weren't saying. Owen was the younger one, all motion and noise and a laugh that filled whatever room he was in. She had raised them on her teacher's salary, on Saturday shifts at the tutoring center across town, on the particular kind of resourcefulness that single mothers develop the way some people develop calluses, without noticing, until one day you look down and realize something hardened there to protect you. She was good at it. She had gotten very, very good at it, and part of being good at it meant never letting anyone see the cost. The tire blew on a Thursday morning in November, on Route 9, half a mile from the school. It happened exactly the way she had known it would. Not with a bang, but with a long, low hiss that turned into a thump. And then the car was pulling hard left, and she was already pulling over to the shoulder, already running the numbers in her head before the car had fully stopped. $240 for a new tire, maybe $350 if the rim was damaged. The checking account had $87 in it until the 15th. That was 11 days away. She sat in the car for exactly 2 minutes. She was aware of being on the side of the road. She was aware of the time, 7:42, which meant she had 18 minutes before her classroom door needed to open. She was aware of her hands, which were very still in her lap, which was something she had trained them to do so that she would not communicate panic to her children. Her children were not in the car, but the habit was so old it had become her resting state. She got out of the car. She opened the trunk. She looked at the spare, which she had never had cause to use and which, she realized now, she was not sure she knew how to put on. She had her phone in her hand. She scrolled through her contacts with the particular experience of a woman who had long ago made peace with not having people to call, not because she was unloved, but because she had spent 9 years being so competently self-sufficient that the people around her had stopped thinking of her as someone who might need anything. She was about to search for a roadside assistance number when the truck pulled up behind her. It was a blue pickup, salt-rusted at the wheel wells, a lumber company logo on the door that had faded to almost nothing. The man who got out was maybe 50, heavy-set, wearing a canvas jacket and work boots, and the expression that was simply, straightforwardly concerned. "Need a hand," he said. Not aggressively helpful, the way some men were, just asking. "I think I'm all right," she said, which was the automatic answer, the one she had said so many times that had worn a groove in her. He nodded, but he didn't leave. He looked at the tire. "That one's pretty flat. You got a spare?" "I do, She stopped, looked at the tire, looked at the trunk, looked at him, and something in her, something that had been holding itself very tightly for a very long time, made a small involuntary sound of giving up. "I'm not sure I know how to change it," she said. "I know I should know. I've just never had to." "That's what people are for," he said simply. His name was Roy. He changed the tire in 14 minutes, talking the whole time, not at her, but alongside her, narrating what he was doing in the same low practical way that good teachers explain things, which she recognized and appreciated. He told her where the jack went. He showed her how to loosen the lug nuts before lifting the car. He did not make her feel stupid for not knowing. He just showed her. When it was done, he stood up and wiped his hands on a rag from his jacket pocket. "You a teacher at Franklin?" he asked, nodding toward the school in the distance. "3rd grade, she said. Something crossed his face. My daughter was in third grade there. 8 years ago. He paused. Her teacher's name was Mrs. Owens. Margaret looked at him. I've been there 12 years. He stared at her. Emma Roy, red hair talked too much. Emma Roy, Margaret said softly, and a girl came back to her, not in a flash, but in a feeling, the particular feeling of a child who had needed extra time and had gotten it and had bloomed because of it. She used to bring in drawings every Monday. Space stuff, planets. His face did something complicated. She's studying aerospace engineering. First year at State. There was a silence that was not uncomfortable, just full. I should get to school, Margaret said. Yeah, he picked up his toolbox. Listen, that spare's not rated for highway. Get a real tire before the weekend. I will, she said. And she meant it, though she did not yet know how. She drove the rest of the way to school on the spare, thinking about a red-haired girl who drew planets, thinking about a man in a canvas jacket, who had stopped because stopping was simply what you did, thinking about how she had said I'm all right automatically, how it had come out before she could decide whether or not it was true. She taught her class. She read with her students. She helped a boy named Marcus sound out a word he'd been afraid of for 2 weeks and watched his face change when he got it. She ate her lunch at her desk and did not think about money. She was good at not thinking about money during school hours. It was one of her disciplines. At 3:15, when the last bus had pulled away and the hallway outside, her classroom had gone quiet. She sat at her desk and looked at her phone for a long time. Then she called her sister in Raleigh, which she had not done in 4 months because her sister had her own problems and Margaret did not want to add to them. Her sister picked up on the second ring. Maggie, not a question, just her name, said the way her sister said it, which was the same way their mother used to say it, which meant I'm glad you called and I know something's wrong and you don't have to explain all of it right now. I had a flat tire this morning, Margaret said. Okay. I've been managing a tire I knew was going for 6 weeks because I couldn't afford to replace it. Okay, her sister said again in the same voice, not judging, not rushing in with solutions. Just there. I don't ask for help very well, Margaret said. I know, her sister said. You never have. Not since Daniel. Margaret looked out the window at the empty parking lot, at the place where her car sat now, solid and still, resting on a spare that would hold until the weekend. She thought about Roy, about Emma drawing planets, about the specific kind of help that came from people who had no reason to give it except that they were, at their core, decent. I think I have to get better at it, she said. Yeah, her sister said. I think so too. What happened next was not dramatic. There was no single moment where everything changed. Her sister sent money for the tire, not as a loan, as a gift after Margaret tried twice to call it a loan, and her sister refused twice, with the particular stubbornness of someone who loved her. She got the tire replaced on Saturday. She bought both boys pancakes at the diner 2 blocks from the tire shop, and they sat in a booth for an hour while Owen told a story about his class hamster that went on so long it became almost philosophical, and Caleb listened with the serious attention he gave to everything, and Margaret sat across from them with her coffee and felt something she had almost forgotten the name for. Not relief exactly, more like the particular feeling of a knot loosening, the one you had stopped noticing because it had been there so long. She did not stop being the woman who took the long way to avoid potholes. She did not stop being careful with money or disciplined, with worry or competent, in all the ways she had trained herself to be. She was still that woman. She would always be that woman. But she started answering the phone more. She started saying actually yes. If you could, that would help when people offered. She started letting the knot be a little looser, understanding that held together was not the same as fine, that asking was not the same as failing, that the people who loved her were not depleted by her needing them. If anything, they had been waiting. Caleb asked her one evening, out of nowhere, why she seemed different lately. Different how, she said. He thought about it with his characteristic seriousness. Less like you're carrying something by yourself. She looked at her 9-year-old, at his careful, watchful eyes, and understood that he had seen it all along. Not the money, maybe, but the weight. Children always see the weight. I'm working on that, she told him. He nodded, satisfied, and went back to his book. Margaret looked at him for a long moment, at his dark hair bent over the page, at the lamp throwing warm light across the living room. Had Owen asleep already on the couch, one sock off, completely untroubled. She had built this, all of it, on one income and sheer will and 11 extra minutes every morning on the long way around. She did not know what came next. She did not know if the next hard thing was close or far. She did not know if she would always be a woman who drove on a dying tire too long before asking for help, or if she was becoming someone else. Both felt possible. Both felt like her. She turned off the lamp above the couch and left Owen sleeping. She was still standing. That was enough for tonight.